Hello, I'm Jordan, and I'm going to talk today about Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. My original plan was to read and to talk about Merchant of Venice, but at the very last minute, I saw this on my shelf, and I just changed my mind because I love this play, and I love returning to it. And well, part of the reason for that is that it's, in my opinion, along with um, Midsummer Night's Dream and As You Like It and Twelfth Night. It's just one of Shakespeare's most good-natured plays. He has a lot of plays that are not at all good-natured. I'll be talking about one of those later. But this is just a sweet play. Um, but what I remember about it most, and what makes me want to come back to it most, is, of course, Beatrice and Benedict, the two characters. I guess you could call them the two main characters, although we'll be getting to how that's a little problematic. Um, and they are just a delight. They're infinitely fun to spend time with as characters. They are extremely witty, maybe, again, we'll be getting to that. And watching them banter, not only with each other, but with other characters in the play, is just fabulously entertaining. Even though their wit is often, especially Beatrice's, is often very destructive and or not, maybe not destructive, but nihilistic. Even so, they are just extremely likable characters. And as I was reading this, I was trying to put my finger on exactly um, what I like so much about them. Because, as I was saying, they don't really play a huge role in the plot of this play. When things get serious, and they do get serious, it's kind of a tonally uneven play, and I think that's intentional. With the Claudio and Hero story, in which Hero is falsely accused by Don John, and Claudio is so quick to viciously denounce her, and so is her own father, Leonardo. It's a very out of place scene in the intensity with which they respond to that accusation, and the intensity with which they denounce Hero and her own response. And Hero is famously a kind of a non-character. She has very few lines. So my point is that this play borders on becoming a tragedy. There is a famous quote about Romeo and Juliet that it misses being a comedy by like 2 minutes, because of course if Romeo had waited 2 minutes before he killed himself, Juliet would have woken up and we would have had a comedy. Similarly, this book comes very, very close to becoming a tragedy because Claudio seems so intent and on so convinced of Hero's guilt based on not all that much evidence, hearsay essentially. And even the friar's plan, this very Romeo and Juliet plan of faking her death in order to elicit some kind of guilt response in him, totally fails. Claudio continues to joke right up to the end of this book. Even when Benedict steps up to the plate and challenges him to a duel, Claudio is still joking. So there's this sense that these characters are not well equipped to deal with anything serious. Even Benedict and Beatrice do not save the day. Who saves the day in this book is Dogberry, one of the most stupid and ridiculous characters in all of Shakespeare. And yet, if it weren't for Dogberry, this play would certainly have lapsed into a tragedy, because of course Benedict would have killed Claudio in a duel, which would have totally disrupted the playful harmony of the entire play. So the point that I take from it is how fragile the world of this play is. And it's even doesn't have all that much substance. There's a essay in this edition by George Bernard Shaw, I believe, where he says essentially that Benedict and Beatrice are not that witty. If you actually break down what they're saying, it's pretty, uninspired comedy. It's how they say it. It's the characters themselves that are so engaging. And I think to a certain extent that's true. And also the substance of the play is quite thin. You have a lot of the elements that Shakespeare loved, the masquerades, the mistaken identities, the treacherous bastard brother. You even have the reconciliation scene at the end, which he did so well in his later plays. But they're all they're not very well developed in this play, and it's amazing to me that isn't a problem for the play. It's still extremely effective, I think, because it's so lighthearted and fun. although I do think Shakespeare was indicating that it was a very fragile world. It's rescued from tragedy essentially by chance, in the form of Dogberry, who was not a intelligent agent to get that kind of thing done. So, anyways, boy, that was a lot in 5 minutes. I hope I made any kind of sense. But if you haven't read Much Ado About Nothing, first of all, I'm not sure why you're watching this video if you haven't. But if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's amazingly fun. It's a fantastic play, and Benedict and Beatrice are characters that I think about quite often. If I were to meet any two Shakespeare characters, these would certainly be near at the top of the list. And there's also always that fun thing to do of trying to imagine how Shakespeare characters from different plays would interact with each other. I would love to see Beatrice interact with Falstaff. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I do think Falstaff does have a much better wit, if you can qualify that kind of thing. But he's not as likable of a character, in my opinion. He is he's cowardly, of course, and he's selfish. I don't think Beatrice is either one of those things. One of the reasons I love her and Benedict is that they both step up to the plate. They're totally ineffective in trying to save the day, but they both set joking aside, not all the way, but set it aside in order to address the situation in a serious way. In fact, the scene where Benedict challenges Claudio to the duel is quite admirable. You wouldn't think you would admire. Usually you don't admire Shakespearean comedic characters. I admire both Benedict and Beatrice. In that scene, Benedict is very politely and gentlemanly refusing to engage in the banter with Claudio, while also very politely challenging him to a duel. It's really something quite exciting to see. Anyways, my thoughts on Much Ado About Nothing. I will be my plan is to talk about a different comedy in a few days here, which I think is one of Shakespeare's most disturbing and upsetting plays. So stay tuned for that if you're interested, and thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of this play. Maybe as I understand it, it's not a hugely popular Shakespeare play, but I think it should be. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day.